Here's a question for you. You know, when you read Reagan's book and you read about him, he also learned how to negotiate with the other side. Tip O'Neill, they would sit down, they would talk, they would do this, they would do that. So there was elements of him willing to negotiate, and he was loved by a lot of people, right?
Sure.
He was loved by the left, the right. For the most part, people liked him, okay? So he knows how to do that. But Trump, there isn't any of these organizations that you don't trust that like him. So there's a part of that where it's kind of like, why does the FBI hate Trump? Why does the CIA hate Trump? Why does the Biden, why do these people that are in these power plays that have been using these power, why do they all hate Trump as much as they do?
I think it's a different faction. I don't look at this stuff in terms of good guys and bad guys. I see them as competing power factions. Yeah. So there's two broad, as I see it, power factions at play here. There's the people that are like in power right now, and give you an example. Anthony Blinken, his stepfather, Samuel Pisar, Robert Maxwell's lawyer, Armand Hammer's lawyer, big guy. They describe him as human rights lawyer. He was a lot more than that, that's for sure. He testified to Congress at what was going on in the early 70s. He was saying, yeah, so basically the nation state is already irrelevant, and we're building a single unified world economy. And we're doing it because private capital and private Western capitalist enterprises have decided to get in bed with communist state-run enterprises, and we're just going to make, the trans-ideological corporation, he called it. This is what's going to run the world now. He said it to Congress in the early 70s, and the congressman asked him, do you see this as good or evil? He was like, mostly good. And this is the guy that raised the guy that's running the State Department right now.
And how closely tied was he to the World Economic Forum, that entire agenda?
Samuel Pisar, this was one. So he was really involved in this American Committee for U.S.-Soviet Relations, and you had a lot of big names on there. And I talk about it in my Jamie Dimon piece because Control Data Corporation was involved with that, and we're very shadily involved with some of this tech transfer stuff going on. Samuel Pisar said one of the main drivers of this trans-ideological corporation were illegal tech transfers, mainly from the U.S. and the West, to Russia and China, like what was going on in Chinagate. But it was going on way before then. And a lot of these businesses were doing stuff like that.
Yeah, that doesn't answer my question. So
I'm getting there. Sorry, it's kind of long-winded. So you have in that same group wanting to commit that same, move toward that same policy goal, the Trilateral Commission. Like the Rockefeller, it was made by the Rockefellers. Epstein was a member of it, actually, but they're working towards that same goal. So I sort of, that is, I see one power faction. Then you sort of have in the 80s, like with Iran-Contra, some of those people ended up backing, like under Reagan, end up backing Trump. Like you have him advised by Edwin Meese. You have Oliver North supporting his campaign, people like that. I think that particular power faction isn't necessary. I don't see them as clean at all, right? But I do see them as more like they prefer the nationalist model. They want America to be top. They want, American empire to continue, but they don't want to share it with these other. They don't want to build this like global unified thing. They want like the unipolar world to continue.
Are you going to continue?
What do you mean?
Do you have more to answer my question?
Well, I'm just trying to say I see Trump as that faction.
Okay.
Does that help? I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I want you to go more because, okay, so who's ruined many people's lives the last 20 years? Let's make a list, okay? If we were to say who's ruined many people's lives the last 20 years, we can put FBI there. We can put CIA there. We can put Clintons there. We can put CDC there. We can put NIH there. We can put
Fauci.
China there. We can put Fauci there. We can put World Economic Forum there. We can put, you realize where I'm going with this. Like we can put Biden's family there. We can put McConnell. We can put so many names on this list, right? Every one of those guys hate Trump. Every one of them hate Trump. Why?
Well,
Exactly.
Yeah, but I don't think it's necessarily because, again, I think, the American public, maybe it's Hollywood, for a long time sees things as kind of black and white. Oh, if, all the bad guys are against this guy, he must be good. I think the real world doesn't really function like that a lot. By the time you get to sort of be rise to that level to an extent, you have to, have made deals in the past that aren't
I don't
necessarily
disagree.
You know
No,
what I mean?
I don't disagree.
And like Trump's
Yeah.
mentor, Roy Cohn,
Yeah.
insanely dirty.
Of course.
Insanely dirty,
Yeah.
and a lot of, the art of the deal, he learned that from Cohn, who, and Cohn had learned it from Generoso Pope, who was like this very close friend of Frank Costello and the guy that ran the cement industry, concrete industry in New York.
But everybody
it's dirty. That's what,
it's not dirty. I don't, there's difference between dirty. No, I disagree. What I'm trying to, okay, so for example, this is where I'm going with this. To me, I have a lot of people that you would say are dirty, okay? And somebody could make a very clear argument that these people, based on their past, are dirty, okay? And I've spent a lot of hours with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And when I sit down with them and I say, so tell me what happened that one time when da-da-da-da-da. And I go, well, let me tell you what happened. When we were in the room, Paul Castellano, he did this, and then all of a sudden, Gotti said this, and that, and I go, oh, wow, okay,
Yeah.
got it. So, hey, when you were in this situation and this one guy that was robbing banks, we had him on the thing. I'm like, when you were doing this, and why did you do this? And how did the bank fall for this? And how were you able to do this? Okay, so how do we defend against that, right? So even right now, for example, one of the biggest reasons why Big Pharma is doing what it's doing and it's take advantage of people in America is because of the patent laws that we have. This whole Hatchman and Wax, I think it's one of the senator from Utah is a Republican, and the other congressman is from California, who's a Democrat. They come together, they lower the the patent law to 14 years, and then in 1994 under Clinton they raised it to 20 years, and these insurance companies come out with medication and they can sell it for 20 years patent. Nobody else can compete with them, and the price point. One of the drugs we looked at, Vinny, the price point of what they sold, and then the year when when the patent expired. Within 3 years, the price of the medicine dropped 98.5%. Let me say this one more time.
Wow.
It went from $1,000 to $15, okay? Because now everybody could compete in the marketplace. It was
Yeah.
so you look at these laws, you're like, okay, so I can see why a big pharma would negotiate and hire lobbyists to go in there to pass the law to extend the patent for 20 years and then figure out other ways. Some of them are extending them for another 29 years, 39 years. Okay, that's dirty. Let's figure out a way to negotiate these policies. What I'm asking about here is,
Okay.
these are all the top 10 list of organizations that are the ones that have destroyed America the most, divided us the most, had us fighting against each other. All of these guys hate
Yeah.
the orange hair guy. So,
yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Why is that?
Well, I think I guess I would say two things. In my opinion, I think more than anything else, these guys, more than they hate Trump, I think they hate Trump's base more than they hate Trump specifically. And I would argue that because of the war on domestic terror infrastructure being set up expressly to target people in that base, and also anyone that has sort of nationalist, a nationalist bent, I would guess. And Trump obviously postures as being nationalist, and I don't think they like that. And in pushing to bring industry back to the U.S., all of that stuff. The decision was made explicitly by the people who actually run America to move industry out of the U.S. many decades ago. They do not want to bring it back. They don't. And I think if a lot of these people, like I mentioned earlier, have this goal of making this global economy, and a lot of that has since been wrapped into Agenda 2030 and the people actually developing those policies, I don't think they want a nationalist guy. There's an effort globally to really vilify nationalism. It doesn't matter if it's Trump. It's also Bolsonaro in Brazil or whatever.
Sure.
And I don't think you have to like them, but I think the reason they're so against them is because they want to vilify nationalism.
I don't
because
see. If I have to choose between nationalism and what's the opposite of nationalism?
Globalism.
Internationalism,
okay,
globalism.
exactly. International. Sure. If I have to choose between being proud of my heritage, my country, my land, and everybody else around the world, give me a good argument for that being a bad thing.
It's about sovereignty, I think, though, at the end of the day. Because when you remove national sovereignty, then the people actually running the show are even more unaccountable.
Yeah, so they'll use nationalism to link it to Germany. But again, so here's what I want.
But that's what has been going on, right?
It's bullshit,
Trump
though.
is literally Hitler. Putin's literally
if
Hitler.
If people fall for it, they're naive. But let's kind of go to this. The closest president I can find to Trump, closest family, I can see to Trump is John F. Kennedy. Closest. I think those two to me are very close. Neither one of them have a nice resume. You know, they've done some stuff in the past,
Well,
you know,
sure,
Kennedy,
yeah.
all that stuff. But both of them, the people of power, like the Lyndon Johnson, the Hoover, the CIA,
Sure.
those guys hated Kennedy.
Totally.
Okay? The same people hate Trump. Trump and Kennedy politically, believe it or not, are more similar. But, you know, Kennedy was a proud Second Amendment NRA member. Today, Kennedy is not a Democrat, but it's a hero to a lot of Democrats.
Yeah.
So what I watch for is the following. So here's a question for you, Whitney. The question for you is this. What institution has hurt America that loves Trump?
Yeah, that would probably take some thinking to do. At least in the U.S., it's pretty clear that by this
That's a
point,
good
I think
question.
You
most
understand what I'm asking?
agencies
I
are
want you to
really-
think about it. What institution that hates America, that's hurt America, loves Trump?
I can't even think of one.
I want you to think about it because you're more able to kind of see it from the other side. What institution that has hurt America the last 20 years loves and supports Trump?
Not from that list that you said from the Fauci.
Give me another one. Maybe I'm not thinking about anybody
I can't even think of one. It's
Well,
a great question.
I guess here's the thing that really concerns me about Trump as it relates to national sovereignty. Recently, he did an interview and he said something about Israel, about how Israel essentially, he said it, controls Congress and how he thought that was a good thing. Okay, so regardless of how you feel about Israel, Zionism, the U.S.-Israel relationship, I do not think it's a good sign to have your nationalist politicians say a foreign power rightfully, unduly influences our national Congress.
But
And if you look at the history, there are Israeli espionage operations that have happened.
No question.
Jonathan Pollard is probably the best well-known, where that gravely undermined U.S. national security. And
But-
I think those institutions support Trump, but they're not
fair.
necessarily
I can give an
American.
argument to that, but give me one more. Go one more. Go two more. Go three more. Adam, you're here. What are you thinking?
You're saying that institutions that
Give me any institutions or individuals that have hurt America that love Trump. I'm actually curious. By the way, if you're watching this, comment below and debate each other. I'm really curious. I don't know all the institutions. This isn't my world.
I mean, from the FBI.
This is you research. You've been following politics for a good 20 years. You know, you're in it. What is Rob yourself? What institution? I'm actually curious right now. What institution that's made our lives worse, that made people stay home during COVID, that forced people to do shit they don't want
Well,
to do?
okay, about COVID though, Trump still is really into Operation Warp Speed and what that produced, and
Okay.
declines to distance himself from any sort of the vaccine stuff. And
Fine. So
I
use
think-
that one. That's one. So Operation Warp Speed, that you try to speed up getting vaccine, but the
Well,
reality
it
is
was-
Pfizer didn't announce that they got the vaccine 2 days after the election, which didn't help them anyways.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I don't think that hurt Americans. It was not a good idea to put the military, specifically DARPA people, in charge of that, who have DARPA tends to have sort of this mad scientist view, and they have partnerships with people like Moderna, which also is partnered with the Bill and Melinda Gates
I don't know if
Foundation.
they support Trump, though. I think they manipulated Trump into
That,
bullying
sure,
him
that's
into
possible,
doing that.
but
I
the
don't
thing
think
is,
they
Trump still to this day supports that operation.
the warp speed.
Yeah, totally.
I think he
And
takes credit for the
But
fact that
then
he
you
was
have-
able to get
yeah,
vaccines.
but then you have Peter Navarro, right,
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, he was
was just here on the
yeah,
podcast.
so he was manipulated." So it's possible.
Keep
but-
going. Okay, so that's one. Keep going. Give me a couple more.
Well, okay, I'm not an expert on like Trump stuff necessarily, but I personally don't trust any politician, especially one that gets to that level. I do think, though, that it is important, in my opinion, to push for national sovereignty and things like that. What I mentioned with Israel, that does concern me, because Israel's foreign policy objectives or policy objectives as it relates to the United States do not always coincide with the American national interest. The Iraq War is a huge example of that. Netanyahu being like positive reverberations around the region. You had the Wexner Foundation, which was tied up with Israel at that time,
Yeah.
trying to develop talking points to push us into Iraq and all of this stuff. That cost American lives, cost American money, obviously, and all sorts, millions of innocent people dead in the Middle East, not in our national security interest. And you have a lot of I mean, even the Trump White House, the FBI found stingray devices that were Israel's government spying on the Trump White House. Nothing was done. And there's a lot of things going back. Robert Maxwell sold bugged software on behalf of Israel to our nuke facilities at Sandia Los Alamos lab. Henry Kissinger told him who to pay off. Nothing happened to Henry Kissinger. John Tower was the guy he paid off, former head of the Senate Armed Services Committee, opened the door for Maxwell to sell this bug software. And then they take our nuclear secrets and then they sell it on to China. So that is a problem for me. I mean, you say that's one example, but I think that is a pretty significant example. And personally, I would challenge Trump on that when it comes to the America First stuff. But at the same time, when you're talking about the Republican Party.
1 out of 20 institutions you just mentioned.
That's fine, but I think in terms of undermining the claim of America First, I think that is something that he definitely needs to address.
What I like that you do, I'm not you. You're the pro here. You're in the world that you're in, that you go in and you find stuff, right? That's your job. You're very good at it. I would be very curious if you went and you investigated the one guy that was assassinated and the other guy that was character assassinated in ways no one's ever been character assassinated before. Why is that? Why are those two families feared as much as they were feared? Is it because they were doing so many side deals? I don't think so.
No.
So that's so what I'm trying to find out is, because think about this. Here's what we want to do. There's two ways would we like to see more people who love America that are not willing to bend their backs for anybody and negotiate anything just to be invited to those cool parties? Okay.
Yeah, so obviously that would be better, but is Trump that guy?
I'm not saying if Trump is that guy.
I don't know.
I'm saying, but here's what I'm saying to you. I'm saying go investigate him and go write something on him and Kennedy. Link those two families and then rate them. Write whatever dirt or anything you want to find, but then also ask, why do these organizations, if we were to rank the last 60 years, 1964, 1963 till today, let's go November of 1963 till today, right? That's 60 years. From the last 60 years, from your perspective, give me the 5 agencies, individuals, organizations that have destroyed America the most, the top 5.
Oh, man.
Give me the top 5.
Really putting me on the spot.
I mean, no, I'm not saying you know exactly what the top 5, but in your opinion, what do you think are the top 5?
All right. It's, well, I guess it's pretty broad. A lot of corporate America would be up there for sure. Multinational corporations. Big Pharma, IBM, a lot of the big tech companies then and now, for sure.
Okay, Big Pharma,
building this transnational power structure, ultimately, at the end of the day.
I'd like to throw the Fed in there.
Okay,
if you don't mind.
Federal Reserve?
Yeah.
Okay, game. Who else?
Or you can just broaden that and make it banks, the big banks.
Okay,
Central banks are the biggest banks,
commercial, corporate.
Yeah.
I got all that together. What else would you say?
Definitely the CIA.
Definitely the
Department of Justice.
Would you put DOJ over FBI? Like how?
Well, DOJ oversees the FBI technically, right?
Okay, so let's put DOJ and FBI together.
How about
who else?
Lobbyists?
Yeah, but lobbyists are revolving door on the payroll stuff. So ultimately, that's the corporate side subverting the public sector or
military industrial complex. Do we want to put those guys? Okay, let's put military industrial complex.
In terms of that military industrial complex, in terms of how people think of that, I would say the contractors. General Dynamics, insanely corrupt. That's the Crown family I mentioned earlier. They run that. Insanely corrupt. Lester Crown, the Pentagon tried to get his security clearance revoked 3 times.
Wow.
And they couldn't do it because higher-ups kept shutting it down.
So perfect. Let's do this. Let's stay on this. This is very helpful. Let's continue because I think this is good. Okay, so we got Big Pharma, we got IBM, we got Fed, we got
IBM,
big banks.
I would say big tech is
Big tech is what
better.
you would say. Okay, big tech. Then we said CIA, DOJ, FBI combined together, military industrial complex. Fine. Now give me individuals. What families, names, the last 60 years, since November of 2000 to November of 1963, not 22nd, since November 1st of 1963 till today, which top families have destroyed America the most?
Okay, Rockefeller's number one,
Rockefeller.
probably.
Who else?
After that, I'd put the Chicago families up there,
Pritzker?
the Crowns and the Pritzkers.
Okay.
I'd probably put them together. Yeah.
Chicago, got it. Who else?
All right, the opioid crisis, the Sacklers.
Okay, the Sacklers.
Because that, I mean, a lot of not enough people talk about that. But that you could sort of rope into big pharma, like some of the big companies that are tied to suspect stuff going on with the anthrax attacks and also with COVID stuff. Emergent Biosolutions, they make a killing off of selling Narcan. They had a monopoly on Narcan too.
So we got 3: Rockefeller, the Chicago, the Pritzker. You put them together. The opioid, the Sacklers. Who else?
Well, again, I think, when you're talking about banking interests, a lot of these tend to be transnational. You have some of these old money banks from Europe.
Give me names, family.
Rothschild.
Yeah, I'd probably put the Rothschilds on there for sure. But they openly made an alliance with the Rockefellers not that long ago.
Who else?
These are just families. Probably talking about individuals,
Names,
like a Henry
families,
Kissinger.
it could be
like one of those-
Kissinger, Clinton, Biden. People who have sold America.
Well, Kissinger sold America out, definitely. Yeah.
I'm here because of Kissinger. You know that.
Oh, really?
I'm from Iran. Kissinger was supposed to help Iran. The Shah, he didn't last minute. The Shah fell, and then catastrophic issues happened. Khomeini shows up. I'm there. Anyways, that's a whole different story. So Kissinger. Who else would you put as top? Would you put? What are the names that we want to say? Do we want to say
Bushes?
Johnson, Lyndon Johnson?
Yeah, the Bushes, the Clintons, for
Bushes.
sure. But
Can
there,
we
I see
add
them
the
as
Bushes
first
to this
families.
list?
Yeah.
Dulles?
Dulles?
Yeah, Alan Dulles.
The
Well,
airport.
or Sullivan and
CIA.
Cromwell, which is their law firm that they ran forever.
That list is
Yeah.
that could be a huge list.
Okay, so you don't have Clinton or Biden's here at all. You don't think they're that important.
I would think the Clintons, Bushes, Bidens,
Let's
they're
lump them in just
so you put all of them together. Okay.
Let's lump those
they're
demons.
different sides of just the same crime family, especially the Bushes and the Clintons.
Okay.
There's too much weird stuff around them, especially when you look at things like Iran-Contra.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, Bush covered for Mark Middleton. They step in for each other when they need to.
So here's my question. You ready?
All right.
So here we go. Okay. Which one of these loves Trump?
Yeah, I don't think they do.
That's the point. The
Yeah,
point
I
I'm
see
trying to
your
make
point.
to you today is I would love, because I do so many different things right now. I wish I had time to do investigative journalism. I just don't have the luxury to do it right now. Okay. But that's why I love for somebody like you who, if this interests you and if you're inspired by it, go do those two families.
Sure, but
okay?
I do think, if you're talking about Trump specifically, I do think he has some conflicts of interest and has for a long time.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, if the issue is let's stop the vilification of nationalism, let's make moves to protect our national sovereignty, I think that has to be a mass movement from the American public. Because, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, I think so many people in the United States, whether it's been instilled in them through education or culture or whatever, seem to think that as long as we get the right guy in the White House, everything's going to magically fix itself in this country. And I do not think that is possible. Believe what you want to believe about Trump. He came in and 2016 with great intentions and all of that. If you want to believe that, I don't necessarily believe that, but if you do, he wasn't able to do that. Why? One guy can't fix it. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. running right now, he's obviously very different than a lot of these guys. Do you think if he got in, he could fix it all? I think the problem is so big at this point, and that so many of these institutions we've been naming off, it's the most powerful institutions in the U.S. government. They said before, like with Nixon and Watergate, it's just, some rotten apples in the barrel, but keep the barrel. I'm telling you, the barrel is rotten. And the only way we can fix that in this country is that people have to realize that, and people have to start taking responsibility for their own lives.
But what does that mean, though? That's a good motivational speech, but what does that mean?
Here's what it means. What do you need to be self-sufficient as a community, as an individual, as a family?
Not relying on the government.
But also multinational corporations. Right? We have outsourced from our communities, from our country, almost everything we produce to foreign powers that don't like us. Right? Or we're in trillions of dollars in debt to our ostensible main enemy. So that I would argue that's because we have our government, corporations, but the American people have co-signed it because they've been told this is more convenient, this will be cheaper, blah, 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 outsourced so much of what we need to survive as a people, as communities, as families, to people that don't like us. And that's not necessarily just China here, right? That's these corporations, these elite families that own most of corporate America and the banks and what have you. They don't like the little people.
Yeah. So,
you know what I mean?
If you're listening to this, folks, you're enjoying this podcast, smash the subscribe button and turn on the notifications. And just in case something happens here, text the word podcast to 310-340-1132. Text the word podcast to 310-340-1132 for anything that we do, the next live event. And maybe if you would like to have a Whitney Webb at a live event at our studio in the future, let us know. But text us there. We'll be announcing the next live here as well. Let's continue. Okay, so I agree. I think the challenge is a couple different things. One is we think one person can save America. When is the next Kennedy? When is the next Reagan going to be here?
It's us.
I fully agree with
It's
you.
us.
I agree with
Yeah.
you, but I think people like you are very important. I think we need to protect people like you.
Oh,
because I think people like you are a gem. We need more of you. It takes a lot of courage and sacrifice in your personal life to want to study these types of topics. This is not an easy job and profession you've chosen. I salute you for the job that you do. To me, it's a form of public service. And we're not paying taxes for a person like you. You're independent. You're doing this for us. We thank you for it. You're very important. I think individually we need to stop relying on the government. So I think one of the things that is anybody that pushed a lot of entitlements the last 60 years and got more Americans to be relying on the government, I think they screwed America as well. They got people not to realize what their capabilities are. That's perfect. But the problem here for me, what I think immediately, those are long-term solutions for us to become independent, responsible, not rely on a government and take care of ourselves. I get it. But I also think this person we're looking at to be able to get in there and do the work is not going to be a person that looks and walks and talks the way you want that person to walk
Well, sure.
and
But
talk.
here's what I